Great to see you. Hello there and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jedel Cabrero. Trust that you had a happy Easter holiday despite the economy. God is still faithful. I'm here with Herman Manyora. Great to see you, sir. How are you doing today?
Well, I need to honor the weather.
Come on, you started with a cough.
Yes.
I don't know whether you've seen what lawyer Willis Otieno is saying. That election should be held in 2026. Says that 2026 August is in the fifth term of the president, and says in 2027 that will be the sixth year. But according to Article 136, elections must be held on the second Tuesday in August in every fifth year. Have you seen this debate, and what do you think about what Willis is saying?
I said about it, I raised it sometimes back in the election of 2020. Yeah, 22. I was saying it should have been 2021. It depends on how you read it. I don't think it will go far.
Why, if the article says in, why do you say it won't go far? Shouldn't we consider this? Or these are just games that...
Maybe at the very worst, there could be some rewarding. But it will be interpreted like that. I also looked at the American one, and I thought we are not going far with that argument. Yeah.
What is the discrepancy? Is it in the Constitution, or is it in our courts, or in the interpretation that will...
I think it was in the wording. The wording left some room for interpretation. Yeah. In the fifth year. So what does that mean? 2022 is a year. 2023, 24, 25, 26 is the fifth year. But if you say after every 5 years, then again, there will be complication. I don't know how they word it.
How, from what you are arguing in 2021, as you put it, what was your thinking about the...
I was just doing I was just reading the way Willis is reading in every fifth year.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. It wasn't going to 2022. Yeah.
So if you look at this debate, does this mean it's the Constitution to be amended and not the elections to be held in 2026?
I think people can just go by practice. We have come to interpret it that way, and by practice, that's how we are doing it. But if somebody insists, then we can change the wording. We can play around with the wording.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you look at the conversation about our constitution, especially when it comes to electoral reforms, everyone is saying there is a discrepancy when it comes to the implementation of elections here in Kenya, about IEBC delayments, about transparency, and about live streaming of results. When you look at elections here in Kenya, what would you say is hindering us having a free and fair election?
Common sense. That's all. We are giving elections some stature. That elections, it is just something simple. It's a very simple, straightforward process that has very clear events and timelines. It's not as big as we are making it. No.
Because if you listen to this
nothing.
Conversation about 2026...
Like you can imagine there's a school and the children or students are electing their school captain. What is big about that? What is the idea of having a school captain is what is important. And that school captain is not appointed by the principal, but by the student. That is a big thing. That you will govern yourself by having a school prefect or a captain, and that you will elect that captain. That is what is important. The process of getting that captain is not as important as people are trying to make it. Yeah.
So this
a teacher can just walk in every classroom, and say, do you know today we are electing? Yes. There are 3 people who have offered themselves. So and so, so on. Do you know them? Yes. By show of hands, how many are for so and so? Or we distribute pieces of paper so that there's some aspect of secret ballot. And then we retreat somewhere and we count the votes. So what is important about that? So the problem in this country, we are giving the elections prominence they don't deserve. IBC is a small little thing in the process, tiny like this. People are fighting. Look, why are people fighting about who becomes a commissioner? Why are people not fighting about the register? What election can you have unless you have a new voter register? What election? So I kept saying that these politicians, at the best, they are overrated. But if I'm allowed to be myself, I just say they are useless people. It is sad that we can be led by such a people as a country, because these are useless people. All these guys who want to be our president, they are useless people. Who is a commissioner? IBC. Nonsense. It doesn't matter. Why are they not saying, how do we arrive at a voters register? First of all, we don't have a voters register. What we have is one big joke. It was there even in the Supreme Court in 2017. One big joke. Let's set it aside. Everybody knows we don't have a voters register. That's a big joke. Why are those people not talking about the voter register? Why are they talking about IBC commissioners? Why are we not saying, how do you trust a small card? I think I have one here. Yeah, I have one. This is for Equity Bank. Why are you trusting this card to transact your millions of shillings if you have? And for those of us who have hundreds, why are we trusting this card? This, with a chip. Yeah. Why are we trusting it? And yet you cannot trust a card to vote for your stupid MP. Unless we stop being stupid like that, we will never get anywhere.
So what are you saying? We shouldn't have a voter register?
No, you don't even need a voter register.
ID, is this what you're
you
saying?
don't even need a voter register. It's a waste of time and a waste of... Last time we had voter registration, it was said ours was, I think, the most expensive in the world after another country. How much was it costing for us to register one vote? How much? Is it 500 shillings or one vote?
So. I think so.
Why are you people queuing? Why are people trying to register? You've already registered as a voter, as a Kenyan. Nobody else can vote using your details. How many things do we transact using our cards? Can you use my insurance to get me? Can you?
No.
Why? I have my card.
Yes.
And I have my biometrics.
Yes.
And there's the OTP, one-time password comes to me.
Yes.
So what is so important about a voter card and voting?
There's this.
Can we trust a system, a simple system, where you just go to a voting center, you identify yourself using your biometric, which you use, your insurance, which you do wherever you go with your fingerprints, we are using them, use your ID number, which they are not two, it's just one, then vote for some person you want to be your president. Why are we complicating things?
Should Kenyans be concerned about Northeastern and our borders, you know, when it comes to issuance of IDs, when it comes to elections?
That is now another story, which we must deal with in another forum.
Because if you're saying we can just use our IDs, and there are people that are just getting IDs now.
So let me ask you. I want to ask you. So which is more difficult to get, an ID or a voter card? By your same token of you, by the same token.
ID, it's the ID.
ID is much more difficult to get.
Yes.
Or to forge.
Yes.
Than a voter card. Yeah. If you have your biometrics captured when you get your ID and your passport or whatever it is, those biometrics cannot be varied by anybody. No. Your fingerprints, it's only you who has it. Nobody else has it.
I'm going to a different conversation now about IDs in Northeastern that is raising concerns about.
That is another story. I thought you are missing that,
especially when it comes to elections.
There is no country in the world that allows just about anybody to become their citizen. Okay? And that's how it is. If you think you are being magnanimous, if you think you are being good, then you land where America is today. You land where some countries in Europe are today. Because they have gotten to a point they are realizing, now we are dealing with a monster. People who are illegal in this country. Children born in this country illegally. Because now America is saying, you don't think you just carry a pregnancy and bring it to America and you become an American citizen. We are going to stop that. There is no country in the world that is not bothered about who becomes its citizen or who is its citizen. So I think I've answered your question.
Do you think it has been politically
I've answered your question because
for elections,
when you have a border like our border with Somalia, it must concern you as government who gets an ID in those parts of the world. And it's just, let me also tell Kenyans, because there are many Kenyans, some Kenyans who may not know. It's not just Somalia. It is the border with Uganda. It's with the border with Tanzania. Ask anybody who has tried to get an ID from Kajiado. They will tell you it's not the same as Kiambu. They will tell you that. Because Kajiado shares a boundary with Tanzania. Tell people in Busia, they will tell you, if you come from Busia and you have a Muslim name, for example. So these are standard things. What I would not allow as a citizen is for anybody, government or anybody else, to make citizens of this country feel like second-class citizens, whoever they are. So if the process of vetting makes people from some part of this country feel they are being discriminated against, they are second-class citizens, that I cannot support. But the principle of vetting, you cannot remove it. So Ruto is wrong. Ruto is wrong, Ruto is wrong, Ruto is wrong, Ruto is wrong about vetting.
Yeah.
I would rather, Ruto said, let us make the vetting process a civilized, modern process, so that nobody feels discriminated. Nobody feels the second-class citizen of this country. Because of Somalis have been mistreated through this vetting.
Do you think it has been political?
That's what the president ought to have addressed. But I do not, for example, support the idea of visa-free travel. It must concern you who enters your country. But the idea that a visa must be an encumbrance should not be allowed. But we must vet you as you come to our country. And a visa is a known way of vetting people. But make that visa as simple and as friendly as possible. How friendly it is a reciprocal issue. If people from UK come here and they enter in a stress-free way, we too must go to the UK in a stress-free way. If Americans make it difficult for us to go to America, we must make it difficult for them to come here. Just like that woman in Namibia has done. Because there must be mutual respect.
The foundation.
But we must vet you as you come into this country.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Anybody coming into Kenya must be vetted. Even our own brothers from wherever. We must also be vetted when we go to other countries. But the system of vetting must be as simple and as friendly and as affordable as possible.
The foundation of our conversation.
For some people, it should not even cost you a cent.
It's elections. We're talking about elections.
Yes.
And when it comes to vetting and voter IDs, should the opposition be concerned about this? And how would you advise them? Because they're talking about this can be used for rigging. They're talking about...
You cannot advise opposition because there is a bunch of idiots. These are just useless people. These politicians are overrated. They are extremely useless fellows. They are talking about IBC, giving IBC prominence it doesn't deserve. I want to hear anybody who wants to be president in this country saying we want to establish a voter register which must be as simple and as cost effective as possible. We don't need to spend a cent registering Kenyans when they have the IDs. I've showed you my ID. We don't have to employ unnecessarily too many clerks.
You're saying they can't be advised.
When you go to your bank, just cack you alone and you get your money. Why can't you go to your booth, cack alone and vote? Yeah. India, my friend, let me remind you, I know last time I told you this, you have forgotten.
Yes.
Do you know election officials in India are more than the population of Kenya? You know, we are talking about 1 billion voters or thereabout. Last time I checked, it was like 800 million. I am not quite sure. But it was hundreds of millions of voters who could use kielekea kwa billion 900.
Yes.
Kama ni nyinyi mungepewa hiyo, so mungefanya hiyo kura kwa miaka 20. Just voting. voting for president in Kenya, if Kenya had a population of India, with this stupidity I'm seeing, with these useless politicians, it will take us 20 years to vote for a president. People are voting in 900 million people and they are doing it in 3 days. You are voting in a miserable 14 million people and you want to take 7 days to announce the results. There is a by-election with 14,000 people turning up. 3 days later, election results are not out. We must stop being stupid. This is what I'm telling you. Kenyans, if Kenyans want to save this country, they have to stop being stupid. Because you are basically stupid people. An election is a simple thing. IBC has no prominence in an election. What is important in an election is who can vote and how can they vote.
You've also talked
Simple.
You've also talked about bombers. Willie Sotieno says it should be abolished, not just you.
Oh, me, he's more radical than me.
It should be abolished.
Yeah, because he has no role. Bombers has no role. So when I see big politicians who want to lead me in this country, rushing to bombers, I said, God save this country. We don't have a country. A country is as good as its leaders. We don't have leaders. What we have are just idiots. What are you going to do in bombers? I've given them the example of America. Yeah. The bombers of America happens, I don't know, in December. January there. January, December. The elections take place in November. Yeah. First Tuesday, I think, of November in every fourth year. Yes. Every fourth year.
Every fourth year.
That's tricky. When I got to that and I went slow in my argument, like when Willis reads that, he'll go slow. Bombers of America happens as a formality. Bombers in this Kenya is supposed to be a mere formality. A mere
formality.
In the year 2005, we had a referendum. Results were being relayed at KICC real time. In real
time.
Up to some point, it was clear the no had won and the yes banana had lost. That's what we are supposed to do with our elections. Not bother who is IBC, who is in bombers, from what. No! And therefore, these people want to be president. Even if they became president, they can't change this country. They are the same because they're all useless.
And with this route they are taking, can they become president? That is the question.
They may, but even if they become so, they are all useless people. A bunch of idiots.
Thanks for tuning in.
But I must explain why they're a bunch of idiots. Because we want them to make me feel I'm living in the 21st century. In the 21st century, I can trust all my money in a bank with a card. Why can't I trust my vote electronically? What is a miserable vote compared to the money I put in my account? A vote.
To the money you have.
And they are talking about, ID registration of voters. What is the registration of voters? They should be telling us, let's find a way of making the ID the only thing you need to vote. They should be telling us, on the day of voting, let's find a way of really time we are seeing the votes as they are building, the way we did in 2005. If we did it in 2005, 20 years ago, we can't do it now. They are still talking of IBC and the voter registration. Bunch of idiots.
Well then, thanks for tuning into this conversation. And advice for Manyora to the opposition is that he can't advise them anymore. Goodbye for now.